Okay, we're here. Okay, Mike, how you doing?
I am doing great. Thank you for having me on the stream today, Carson.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I ran into you through some comments on a video of mine, and so I tell me a little bit about y- your veganism, and just your thoughts on veganism.
Uh, do you want the start of why I became a vegan?
Yeah, yeah, that sounds good.
so, the full truth actually is I got really stoned one day.
Okay.
Yeah, I got really stoned one day and I just started thinking, I'm like, what is the meaning of life, right? Like, what is the purpose of everything? And then I looked at my dog. I'm like, it's kind of messed up that people like kill animals, eat animals, and then they say that they love them, right? And I was just like, that's very like hypocritical. So I, I just like at that moment, that was my epiphany. I'm like, I gotta stop eating meat. So that's why I became a vegan.
All right, all right. Did you
Yeah.
start off with just like vegetarianism because you were thinking about eating meat, or did you instantly think of the use of animals?
I started out as a vegetarian. I did eat cheese still, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actually know that cows had to be impregnated to be able to produce milk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, that's messed up. So I I try my best. I try my best to not eat any dairy products or use any animal products at all.
Gotcha.
Now it's just I've been at it for like five-ish years now, and it is hard. It's hard with the way society is today.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, 5 years. Cool. Yeah. So I kind of have I'll do a really brief my story around 18, 19. I just started pondering some random stuff. I think I just first started thinking about cows and them being forced to be milked and all that. And I
Mm-hmm.
just like philosophically became a vegan. Like I just like at that point felt like it's not fair to use animals in any way, and even to the point
Exactly.
of having pets. And so I'm going to get into that with you and the dog thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now I like to branch off and talk about all the things that would scare non-vegans away from being vegan, even though I don't think it's best to do with non-vegans. But just as far as one-on-one philosophical talks without judgment, I like to break down kind of a perfect world, and in my own
Mm-hmm.
mind. And I imagine that being that owning any animals would be no good, aside from a caveat that I've come up with, where if somebody built a cabin out in the woods and had a open door, no door that could shut,
Like a sanctuary.
yeah, and they became friends with a wild wolf, and then that wild wolf came in and slept with them on the bed and was their best friend, but could leave at any time. But anyways, I went became vegan. I was vegan for like a year and a half, and then I failed at it because of like food addiction type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went back and forth, and then I've been vegan for the past 8 years. Aside from that video that you saw of mine, where I talked about using eggs and fish for a way to get over food addiction currently. And anyways, I kind of always have felt philosophically vegan. I'm not sure if most people that go from vegan to not vegan, if they just like stop caring at all and they just were vegan and now they're not vegan. Where like in my mind, like I view actions of mine as wrong that I haven't changed yet, and so that's where I'm at.
Okay. So it's about the intention of being doing the right thing, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the action matters, but I think intention matters too. So it's kind of complicated. Like I have plenty of friends that I've talked with that they say they want to be vegan. They think it's the right thing to do, but they grew up eating animals and they just don't feel like they socially can do it yet. And
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of that actually has more to do with addiction than it has to do with the
It
social side
does.
of things.
It really
Yeah.
does. It was hard at first, I'm sure you remember it, when you first started becoming a vegan, eating meat or like eat animals your whole life. It's hard to break an addiction.
Yeah, yeah. Because if you liked a certain food that didn't come from animals more than the food that comes from animals, then you'd just do that. Like it wouldn't be that, unless you felt that there was some like nutritional properties to it, which most people don't really care about that topic.
Exactly.
It's usually about like what you enjoy eating. And so I think it pretty much all comes down to addiction. If they made the super meat, the science-based meat taste
Mhm.
exactly like regular meat, and they made it exact same price, and people were convinced that it wasn't going to have crazy health issues or anything. I think pretty much every human except some very strict rebels would switch over because yeah, I don't know.
No, I actually I don't think I could have actually became vegan where I was 5 years ago, because I think that was the turning point where a lot of Beyond Meat products, or more variety in vegetarian like food that could appeal a meat eater, right, was
Hmm.
coming around like 2018 ish, and I don't think I could have changed without those products, to be honest.
Gotcha, gotcha.
But now, as I'm more disciplined to not eating meat, and being feeling bad just even looking at, like, you know going into a grocery store and seeing all the meat products, I I can't even think about eating meat again.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about pets real quick because you have a dog. Did I see in your little icon thing that it's a corgi?
Yes, I actually have. Well, my family has three dogs in total. I have one here. Well,
Okay,
two here.
is
Yeah,
are the two that you own, are they do they eat animal based food?
they do.
Okay. First off, I want to point out any conversations that get into details like this aren't going to make you become all of a sudden not vegan because you
Oh
hate the
no,
vegans. Okay, cool. I got the vibe that
yeah, I'm totally fine.
you're totally fine with a philosophical
No, no,
talk.
no, I'm fine.
Okay, so because it's kind of interesting. So I guess supposedly the studies show that that vegan pet foods are healthier or just as healthy as the meat based ones.
Yeah.
And I one thing I actually wonder, and I hope my buddy Michael, who I see is in chat here, can answer this, is I don't know if they're comparing that to standard pet food, because then that would be interesting because I don't know if compared to eating wild animals in the wild, just eat like if you just took a raw whole chicken and fed it to a dog and compared that to vegan dog food. I don't know if they've done anything like that to see if vegan dog food is as healthy as like a natural wild dog's diet. But supposedly, compared to at least standard American dog food, it's better. If it Have you looked into it? Is it a more of a price thing, or are you just not convinced of the health of it?
Okay, so funny enough, I actually had this conversation with my friend 2 weeks ago. I didn't even know there was vegan dog food, to be honest.
Okay, I've
I
never
really
seen
did
it.
not even
I've
know.
just heard about it a lot.
Yeah, I've really never even seen it inside the pet market, like a pet food market that I go to, like Pet Value. And I was just
Hmm.
like, my friend told me, I'm like, really? There's actually like vegan pet food. And then he's like, he told me that dogs can eat it, but cats can't. I'm like, oh, that's strange. I didn't even know that. So I it's more of a learning experience right now to even find that stuff out. So when you bring this up, I actually have no idea about the vegan pet food that you're talking about.
Gotcha. So what are if you went into the store where you buy the pet food for your dog, and then now you
Mhm.
see it says vegan dog food, would would you buy that? And whether you would or not, do you currently buy dog food based on any reason aside from cost or the cute picture on the label? Like, are you trying to avoid certain things in food that you're like because you care a lot about the dog's health, or?
I do care about my dog's health, and certain foods will either cause certain certain reactions out of him. It he has a very she has a very sensitive stomach, so there's certain foods that she can and cannot eat, and I usually use the vet recommended ones, and it is pretty pricey, so I go out of my way to buy it.
Hmm.
But it all comes down to the dog's health, right?
Yeah.
What's best for it.
Hmm.
Um, and when you go in to buy pet food, you don't go in and buy a whole like huge bag, right? You test the waters first. You give small portions, small amounts to see how the dog reacts, if they like it or not. Because I've actually bought a huge bag at first, right, of dog food, and they wouldn't even touch it. They
Oh,
sniffed it and they
gotcha.
would walk away. They would not eat it.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's one of the things why how I buy my dog food.
Gotcha, gotcha. So what would your thoughts be on trying a vegan dog food?
I try it. I give them a try. But if my dog will not eat it, I will not force it to eat it.
For
Right.
sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Maybe you view it along the same lines as I view the optimal health of myself and my family, and then after that, everything's vegan. So in the same
Hmm.
sense that, like, if I knew, if I was convinced that certain animal products would help the optimal health of my children, I would give them that, and then after that, I would try my hardest to not harm animals. I could buy cotton shirts instead of wool shirts, and I can, you know, use fake leather instead of real leather, and
Hmm.
that kind of thing. But family comes first, and I'm guessing you view your dogs as family.
Yeah, exactly. I do not view them as pets. They are family to me. I know some vegans go to the extreme and view that pets are having any pet is wrong at all, but I don't view them as pets, right? I treat them as other human beings. I will not view sorry, I will not treat them as anything less. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, gotcha, gotcha. Cool. Well, so I don't know if the studies on like vegan dog food are if it's different from dog to dog because some dogs have like dietary things. But if you're interested in reading studies, I'll have my buddy Michael send me the study or studies to that, and I can send it your way. And if it
Mhm.
even pushes it further, I could purchase your first bag of vegan dog food to see if your dog likes it. Um, I don't know how to get that, but you can just tell me what your zip code is, and I'll call a bunch of pet stores and find their vegan dog food. Because I'm guessing
Thanks.
it's not just as simple as vegan dog food. Because in the sense that out of all the dog foods, there's healthier ones, and then there's garbage with fillers. There's
Mhm.
probably healthy and non-healthy vegan dog foods too. So
Yeah,
I kind
there's
of know what I should
junk
look
or
into that.
non-junk food.
Yeah, yeah, I should look into that because even though I'm personally not a fan of the idea of owning animals, and I say that as a person that has three rescue guinea pigs, um, I do like the idea of like finding out information to help with the health of animals, but also the moral side of it. And so if I could like discover what the healthiest vegan dog foods are and make a list on a website or something like that, I should definitely do that. Um, Now, what are your thoughts on, let's see, on bringing animals into the world? So I don't know if your dogs are like rescue dogs, and like now that you have them, you view them as family. But the idea of so like let's take a cat for example. So in a cat's life, let's say a cat's cat food was all made of like chicken or something. All the
Mhm.
fat, all the cat food, I'm guessing is going to come from like factory farm chickens, and so one cat's going to eat like over 1,000 chickens in its lifetime, and these chickens spent months and months with like overweight, broken legs, suffering just to feed this like one cat. So like outside of the idea of somebody viewing it as family once they already own it, when that cat is just like at a humane society about to be put down, but it could be rescued and considered as family, and then you make over 1,000 chickens suffer to feed it, or you just let the humane society put it down. Like in my mind, the putting it down is the humane thing to do versus
Hmm.
putting cat food in demand. It's different once it's become family. Probably, I accept that at
Right?
very least
Yeah.
as reasonable for you. But at this point, would you bring in another animal into your house after these two dogs pass away? Sorry
N-
that's sad
no.
sounding, but
Yeah,
okay.
it happens. Animals die, right? Everyone
Hmm.
dies in the end. Nothing
Hmm.
lives forever. But I actually have thought about this. I don't think I would ever bring any pet into my life anymore, or like
Oh,
any
cool.
animal.
Okay.
I would say pet, right? I view it as a way to show people that, like veganism, that animals should not be within, or how do I even say this? Uh, I view that animals should not be within the household and be out free, right? They should be doing what they do, whatever that
Gotcha.
animal does, right? Hunting
Hmm.
for food for itself. We shouldn't step in between that. I
Hmm.
view having pets as wrong because some people just really don't know how to take care of pets, right?
Yeah.
I take care of my pets as family, and other people will not, right? I see it all the
Hmm.
time. I'm just like, why do you even have this dog? It's wrong. This is
Right.
essentially abusing it, right? You're abusing it, and yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
is
like if
exploitation.
people like work full time and they live in a tiny apartment and then their dog's just trapped in there until they're off work. It's
It's
it's it's
terrible.
using an animal for your own pleasure, and yeah, it's a bummer, and there's so many aspects that go into it, like spaying and neutering them. Like in one sense, we don't want them reproducing like crazy because we don't want more of them to suffer. But in another sense, like out in the wild, their natural actions would be reproducing and running around in packs and playing with each other in their packs and having unlimited free playtime. And there's plenty of people I know. Like, sounds like you're a good pet owner of sorts, and I say of sorts because the word owning you didn't like to use, not of sorts as in you're partially a bad pet owner. Um,
Mhm.
but and I know plenty that seem to be treating their animals really well, and the animals seem happy. But yeah, it seems like for the most part, that's probably not the case. And hopefully, there's a future where maybe Elon Musk will make some Tesla pet dogs that are robot
Some
dogs.
AI dogs.
Yeah, well, because
Oh my.
my wife really wants to rescue a dog and have she likes big dogs, and I keep telling her as soon as we can find a dog that doesn't poop, we're good to go because I don't want to deal with cleaning up dog poop. So yeah, if they do a robot dog that doesn't poop, um, I'm all for it. Yeah, okay, let's hop onto a topic. So, in the your first comment you left on my other video, you were talking about different things that you find to be problems with veganism, and or at
Yes.
least that it's almost impossible for anybody to be whatever some people like to call true vegans. And then somebody got on there and they were chatting with you, and they were saying that the only thing that matters is exploitation. Do you want to bring up some thoughts you've had there, and maybe if you've changed your mind based on that conversation with that person?
Okay. So we actually went back and forth for a bit, and I don't think she's really changed my mind at all. The Helen Lloyd person, I think it's a she.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing that
Hmm.
it is a she. Um, I don't believe it's perfect. I believe that there needs to be uh, like a better way to define veganism, right? Rather than just one point, right?
Mhm.
So veganism values the sentient portion of life, right? That's the only value that it defines as something that we should care for. But there are numerous factors that we should be accounting for, and even then, is it right to value one life over the other? Like, do you agree with that at all?
Like, would it be right to value like a dog over a bee?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, Personally, at this point, like I would have a lot to learn about our like the scientific understanding of like the capacity of suffering, like from one animal to another. But
Mm-hmm.
that's the main thing I value is the amount of suffering I want reduced. So yeah, I care more about the suffering of some animals versus others based on that.
Okay. So we went into like a deep dive. Let me just pull this up. I don't really remember the whole conversation.
Yeah.
uh, da-da-da-da. Okay, so let's talk about the second point that I brought up, which is how a vegan can eat an animal, right? Like when you talked about like roadkill, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So if a fish was born like in its natural habitat and died of natural causes, and then I came by in my boat and saw it and scooped it up, would it be right for me to eat that? I believe that it would, but I don't think I still could.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Personally, right? But is it wrong to eat it? I don't think it is. Morally,
Yeah.
it's gone through its own life cycle. It hasn't been exploited in any way,
Hmm.
and it should be fine to eat it now.
Yeah.
There was nothing done wrong to it.
Yeah, I agree. I think obviously everything has its little details of like what could be more or worse, more or less bad. And so somebody might have the argument that if you leave it, then an animal in the wild that might have starved of, not being able to find food would have been able to get it when it washed up on shore or like a bird going by. Where like if you don't need it, then maybe it could have gone to better use.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing that pops into my mind. That I don't think that changes the idea of is it moral or not. And I'm on your side. If I care about the sentient beings, and I even break it down to suffering for the most part. I don't really care about other elements of sentience, but either way, a sentient being once it's deceased, I don't care about. And I've had very interesting conversations with people that do, where they say if you find a feather in the wild, you can't pick it up, and once
Really?
yeah, and once an animal's dead, you can't mess with its body. And then I'll even break it down to figuring out at what point can I, because if you take a roadkill animal and put it in a box and it decomposes, at any point, can you use the dirt that it'll eventually be to put that dirt in your garden? And I can't remember what I get people to eventually say when you break down the details, but yeah, there's some people that just they view it just the same as with a human, where if a relative of yours passes away, like, can you use that body or whatever? And luckily, I'm fine with saying outrageous things on YouTube. And so I will be honest and say that it's not immoral to consume your dead relative. It's just frowned upon in our society, so we better not do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think we're in complete agreement of an animal dying of natural causes is fair game morally. How do you feel about when it comes to like eggs or something with a similar situation, like an animal in the wild that like let's say a wild version of a chicken, it lays an egg, but then for whatever reason it's never coming back. That maybe you witness the chicken die after it lays the egg, and there's just the egg there. Do you view the egg the same way?
So chickens will lay eggs no matter what, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like there has to be certain conditions where it lays eggs, but it doesn't need to be impregnated at all, right? It just lays eggs. right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
if that chicken, and I knew somehow that it was like it wasn't a fertile egg. Yeah, I honestly I'd eat it. If I knew
Yeah.
that chicken was dead, it didn't like we just came upon this egg. There was no like you wait like weeks for it to
Yeah.
hatch. I think it's fair game, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, and I
Uh,
agree.
the how here I just want to bring something up. In my comment, if I could just go into this. Uh, if we lived in like a perfect vegan society where all animal injustice is gone, right? The vegan society's objective has been met, and that there's no exploitation of life or around in the society.
Mm-hmm.
It's anything that happens naturally, right? Like an animal dies or a chicken lays an egg, and we like. I think it should be fine to be eating these products. And sorry,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to think sometimes under like pressure like this.
Oh, you're good. Yeah. No worries. Take your
Yeah,
time.
and it shouldn't be viewed as wrong to be able to eat these products, right? Or I wish
Mm-hmm.
products of animals, right? I hate the word product because if it's like showing that like in the person Helen's comment that it is viewed as a commodity, right? It can be purchased, it can be used as a business, used in a
Yeah.
business, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think any words are fine because like once it's already passed, then it's kind of a product. Like if kind of like feathers. Like if a store sold feathers that they found on the ground, then it's a product. And so yeah, it sounds kind of funny talking. Like I use the word it when referring to animals, and people say that I should use the word they because it makes it sound like an object,
Interesting.
and so
Yeah.
it's just semantics. It doesn't matter. It's more about like what you mean by it. So yeah, I wouldn't worry about the word product. Now that I bring that up though, there are issues where I think it might be better to not do certain things because of how it can influence others. So I think it's fine to pick up a feather off the ground. Therefore, if somebody picked up hundreds of feathers off the ground and sold them in stores, I would have to view that as fine. But if that became popular, then that could encourage others to go and kill birds for their feathers. And so there can be a downside to using products like this. It's similar to vegan materials, like vegan like fake furs. You can wear this vegan fake fur to show that there's really good vegan versions, but somebody that sees you wearing it that doesn't know it's a vegan one and think it looks amazing, you wearing it might encourage other people to go buy regular furs. And so there kind of is a downside to making it look glorious and acceptable to use products even if the individual products had no moral harm caused.
Sorry, could you repeat that last portion?
Oh, I was just saying that there could be a downside. It's kind of like how we're talking about if you eat roadkill or whatever.
Mhm.
There's no moral problem there, and if you wear vegan fur, there's no moral problem there. But those things could lead to a downside if other people view it a certain way. Like if you were to see if you were to accidentally hit a deer or you saw somebody hit a deer and then you didn't want it to go to waste and you happen to like deer meat and you go and you prepare that deer and you have all that deer meat and you feed it to like some friends or whatever, there's no moral problem happening there. But now if you encourage somebody to want to go kill a bunch of deer, um,
Yeah.
or if you're wearing like vegan leather, vegan fur, this stuff, and then it encourages people to go do it. I don't think it's wrong. I think it's totally fine to do, but it's just kind of interesting to think of how our actions could
Could
influence
lead.
bad ideas.
Yeah. it it's better to like educate them why you're doing this, right? Rather than to just, I guess, in this term, like blindly just feed the meat to people, right? Or use the leather. It's
Mhm.
more reasonable to tell them why this is you're doing these things, right?
Yeah.
For example, like the roadkill, right? You no one knows where this meat came from, right? Until you tell them where it came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's and telling them why you're using these materials for like making a jacket. It's because he accidentally killed this thing. So what do I do with it now?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um,
And then those conversations encourage people to do right things, and and that's kind of what I think is the most important thing us humans can do is just have many conversations, open and honest conversations, and it'll lead to good.
yeah, a better society.
Yep.
A lot of people are afraid of talking about things and their opinions, and it leads to a lot of like uh, mis misunderstandings, right? It's better to be
Hmm.
clear about your intentions than not to.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so one of the things that you had brought up in the comment was about insects. I think you mentioned the idea of like walking across yards and you might like step on insects, and then I brought up the driving a car and you might hit insects with your car. Um,
Mhm.
First of all, what are your thoughts on insects in general? Like, so not counting those situations, do you view insects as like wildly different than the mammals as far as your care about them?
So I value all life, and the it's hard to weigh about how much I value things over the other. But if I were to look at my dog and look at a bug, I would value my dog more than that bug. But overall, it is a tough decision to make, and I would view that mammals are more important than insects. But insects do play a large oh my goodness, what's the word? Have a large impact in our ecosystems, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not right to say that we shouldn't value, these insects over like a dog, right? Because our dog will not have much of an impact in a house as this animal or this insect will have outside.
Mm-hmm.
But the the insects do reproduce in large numbers compared to mammals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they also are smaller in size. It's just a lot to to
Yeah.
factor in for this
Well,
decision.
let's break it down to sentience then. What is it about sentience that you value?
I guess like the consciousness part of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like an animal can decide what is right and wrong, or that they can feel like human emotions in a way, right? Is what
Mm-hmm.
I would value. What do you value yourself?
Yeah. So for me, it's the ability to feel pain. I always use pain and suffering synonymously, and I know I shouldn't because there's some different meanings behind it. But yeah, we'll just take pain. The fact that something can feel pain, and
Mhm.
what we mean by pain is something that is disliked, unless obviously there can be cases of like people that enjoy pain, but they're enjoying it, so then it becomes pleasure. But outside of that example, just any pain, I don't want that pain to happen. I don't feel convinced that I care about much else. Now, with human sentience, I care about the want for a future. That's a big one for me. Um, But with animals that aren't human, if they don't have a want for the future, I don't really care much about anything other than them being in pain. And so I don't care about the ability to see something or feel something. I think that's part of sentience would be being able to see colors and objects and things and being able to
Hmm.
feel like touch. And if somehow an animal could feel or touch or see, but it couldn't feel any pain, and let's say it couldn't think, but I don't know. I don't even know if that's a thing. I don't know if you can feel and see without thinking, because thinking would be a big element for me. So I need to find a biologist of sorts, or find out what the understandings are of different
Consciousness in
brain,
a way.
yeah, different consciousnesses and like how those work. But that's kind of all that matters to me. Obviously, I think when it comes to humans, we might still treat it differently. Like if somebody kind of loses their consciousness, like they're in a vegetative state or something like that, it doesn't mean that we just treat them like nothing and throw them in the garbage. But
Hmm.
there's nothing that like I necessarily value left if there's no harm to prevent or to stop from happening. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why I
Uh,
value the different animals differently. Like the amount doesn't matter. Obviously, I would look at the impact they might have. Like bees and ants are very important for ecosystem, and so that part matters. But when you remove the idea of the ecosystem part and like just imagine that's covered, and you just like look at a 1-to-1, it's not about the size or how much they reproduce or anything like that. It would be about the pain. So if somehow we could
okay.
detect that the most suffering came from like ants being halfway squished or something, then I would care more about the ant than the dog. But from my understanding, when it comes to insects, even though they probably feel some pain, they don't feel it to the extreme that mammals do.
Okay. And it's also easier to kill them instantly. So I guess like it's
Yeah.
less suffering, right, for
Yeah.
the bugs. So it does like it still does play like a like a huge factor in my mind and like morality that it's still wrong to kill these things, but yeah, I guess mammals would be valued over the insects with this without the ecosystem factor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I want to bring this up too. Then, okay, it's like an example, right? You ever heard of the black soldier fly?
No.
Okay, so just a little education on it. These insects, let's start at the larvae stage, right? So they eat basically anything, right? You throw anything inside this box, they will consume it, right? When they're full, they they will crawl out of the food and go bury themselves, right? And when they come out, they do not have a mouth, and all they are is a fly that reproduces.
Huh.
Would it be wrong to say that the end of its life point would be considered at that larvae stage where it is finally done? You know, when it's done eating, because at that point when it becomes a fly, all it does is reproduce. It does not eat food. It has no mouth, and it just dies out in like 7 days. Would
But
it
okay,
be
so for
wrong
seven
to?
for 7 days it reproduces, but it I wonder if it feels anything.
Uh,
Um,
I guess like it feels. What do you mean by feel?
like pain and pleasure, that type of thing.
It does. Well, I guess it would feel pleasure if it reproduces, right? But
Hmm.
uh, would it be wrong to, I guess, essentially like because people use this as a business idea, right? They It's more of a how would I say it? Like a decomposition of like food waste, right? They feed the larvae like all this food waste, and then they have these larvae eat all this food, and they have it reproduce in the end, but they also sell the larvae itself. Is it right or wrong to do that? Because people consider its end of stage of life at that larvae stage. Like there's no need for it to reproduce. Sorry, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain this.
No, you're good. It's interesting. I definitely want to think it over more. I guess I just don't really have too strong of a thought on it. I actually posted a question to my community section asking if it's if killing a fly because it's annoying you makes you not vegan. And yeah, I don't really have a strong stance on the killing of insects. So yeah, I guess I'll just have to ponder it more, and I wish I knew more about what we scientifically know about them. I don't know about you, but a big part of it for me has to do with like their ability to like care about things or want things. Like if an animal of any kind couldn't feel pain, and it couldn't it didn't have any attachments to other animals where it would like feel if one animal passed away it would care or anything like that, and if it didn't have any like want for a future, then in a sense I don't care about that thing. And so if it's able to suffer and then you're able to kill it instantly, like you're talking about, like with a fly, you just squish it and it's done and there's no suffering. And in a sense, I don't care. I mean, I care a little bit. But yeah. So I guess it's something I wish I knew a little more about.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sorry, I'm just so nervous sometimes.
Oh, you're good.
It's hard to explain some stuff.
Yeah. No, you're good. Well, one thing I'm kind of curious about, because I don't I got the basic idea of how you value sentient beings, but I don't know the exact like idea of your philosophy on it. So let's look at the trolley car real quick. So with humans, you have a trolley car. You got it on the track that's about to kill the 5 people. You can pull a lever and it'll go over and kill the 1 person. Do you let it kill the 5 or do you kill the 1?
Oh man, this is a hard one. I'm a very big firm believer on reasoning. So if you were to even bring up like some examples, like bring up their 5 prisoners, right? And it's one normal person, I think, or not normal person. It's one person that did no wrong. Would I kill the prisoners over that person, or would I kill that person to save the prisoners? From my standpoint, oh man. It's a tough decision. It's so hard, right?
Well, let me make it a little less tough. Let's say that you have somebody gathered 5 people to hold them hostage, and you're a hostage negotiator. And the person tells you that if you just kill a random stranger that's walking around on the sidewalk out there, like they give you a sniper gun, and if you kill them, they'll let the other 5 go. Would you do it if you knew for sure that in this situation they would let them go? Or better yet, would you want to live in a society where that's the legal route of how it's done? Would you want the police officer that's negotiating to go like, oh, okay, yeah, 1 for 5, and a random stranger is shot by the authority in the society you live in?
I don't think I could do it. I personally would not do it. Reason why is you're choosing to kill somebody, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not choosing would also choose to kill somebody too, right? Kill those 5 people. Mm-hmm. But I'm given the choice not they're they're more forcing me to do it, and I'm not choosing to do it at that point, right?
Okay.
So I don't think I could personally do it myself.
Gotcha. Okay, and then so let's take it back to the trolley car. Does that do the same thing? So if it's on the track going for the five, so that's what's currently occurring. It's going to hit the
Mhm.
five, and then you can pull the lever. So you are just taking that trolley car slash giant bullet, and you are deciding to point it towards the one. Do you feel the same way on that now? Like you wouldn't be the one to decide to kill the person that wouldn't have died?
I wouldn't pull the lever. I don't think I could
Gotcha.
then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm the
it's
same
just the
way.
same example, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know it is. And, people like to break it down different ways where somebody will say that they would pull the lever because pulling a lever is easy. But then when you add an extra element of it where you say, like, there's an interesting one where it's a doctor in a doctor's office and they have five patients that each need they're going to die unless one of them gets a liver and one gets a heart and one gets, all these different things. And
Mhm.
and then a patient comes in who has a cold that just needs some cold medicine, but all their organs are perfectly healthy. Would it be moral to knock that person out and take all their organs and make the other five live? and
Yeah,
and
it's a
almost everybody says no, you don't kill that person to make the five live, but they say that they would pull a lever. So a lot of it comes down to like what they feel is like the ick factor of their actions.
mhm. The intention, right? The
Well, not the
Without reason, it's
intention.
all blind.
Well, because the intention for both and the reason for both would be to save more people, like the utilitarian idea, you save five. So I think the intention's good, but it's the idea of feeling that it's wrong to put somebody under, take their organs and kill them, but pulling a lever where the trolley car is going to do the action so you don't have to get your hands dirty. I think that's where a lot of people come from.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
so let's move it over to animals because see, I have this certain value in how I think in a society people should treat humans. So even if I would have better odds in a society where people pull the lever and one dies instead of five, I still don't want to be killed to save others. And I will take the risk of being somebody that would naturally die in an accident. Um, and so so that's why I value it in that way because I don't want to be among people that will choose to kill some people to save other people. And but I don't know if I feel the same with animals. So let's see how you feel about it with that. If if a trolley car is going towards five cows and it's going to kill all five cows, and you can pull the lever and have it just kill the one cow, does that change how you feel about it?
Oh, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
tough one, huh?
Yeah.
Uh, ooh, that is a toughie. Oh my goodness. I think. Oh man. I. I. Man, that it's kind of like at the bystander point at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would be letting the five cows die rather than the one.
Yeah.
I guess for the greater good, right? If you were to look at the greater good point,
Mm-hmm.
I guess you would have to pull the lever at that point.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I would, and it's complicated. It's a big mess, but I think I would do it with mammals that aren't human, but with
Mhm.
humans, I wouldn't do the killing action. I wouldn't. Yeah, yeah, but it's definitely complicated. Our question for you. Well, one thing I'm curious to hear your thoughts on. So, cost seems to be an issue for some people when it comes to health stuff, or not health stuff, but vegan stuff. Luckily, there's many vegan foods that are inexpensive, like rice and beans and all that kind of stuff. But do you personally take any supplements like a omega 3, like DHA, EPA?
I actually do not. No,
Oh, okay.
I do not take any
Um,
supplements.
oh, none at all. Not even B12.
Nope.
Ooh, you should change that. I
Really?
mean, I think I'll send some stuff your way, but yeah, I just thought all vegans had B12. So B12 supplement is good to go. Basically, the har- depending on where you live, you'll want to take a vitamin D3. Oh yeah, you're on the East Coast. So yes, definitely vitamin D3. Um, because I mean, the only places you can get vitamin D from would be the sun, and then a handful of animal products, mostly like eggs and a couple and fish, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and just living in the U.S., or at least the north side of the U.S., you don't get enough sun, especially during wintertime. Or at least have your
Yeah.
levels checked. If you have your blood tested like every year or two, and your B12, vitamin D3, and I don't know if you can test for omega threes, but yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not an expert of nutrition in any way, so I'll stop trying to explain it. But I was basically gonna say like there's a lot of vegan omega threes. That's you know how a lot of people take fish oil for like
Yes. Yes. Yes.
brain health. So the fish get the DHA and the EPA vitamins from eating algae, and they've figured out how to make algae supplements. So you can get the same thing from fish oil just without the fish. You just take it from the algae itself, the plant,
Okay.
and so that's what we take. But my daughter, who's only 8, can't swallow pills, and the kid ones are like way too expensive, and sometimes they're not even findable. So I get her a vitamin omega 3 gummy, but it is from fish oil, and it's anyways, it's just a complicated thing that I'd be curious to hear what fellow vegans thought of it. Like if you want to get this important nutrition into your child, but but it's too expensive if you go certain routes or whatever. So
Oh, okay.
yeah.
So let's view it at this like a supply standpoint, right? So let's say you live all the way up north, right, where there's like
Hmm.
almost no like vegetation that can actually grow, right?
Hmm.
You're in the polar ice caps. The only thing that you can eat to survive is meat, essentially, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, I guess like you at that point you have to. Like I don't think like if you lived in like okay, let's make it easier. Like you lived in a deserted island, right? There's a bunch of fish everywhere, but not really much vegetation to like sustain you. I guess like to survive, you would have to eat the fish,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah, like so like Eskimos and stuff like that. Yeah. So I would think okay. So I don't think that the studies are quite there. I think the studies show that you can be perfectly healthy being vegan, and that it might even be the healthiest route to go. Um, if the studies, like over the next 100 years, 1,000 years, whatever, we find out that it's perfectly healthy to be vegan and nobody needs to consume animal products, I would think
Mm-hmm.
that it's even reasonable to say that if you live in an area where you have to eat animal products to survive, you just have to move. You have to, if you live in Eskimo territory, you just have to
Mm-hmm.
move south. Now, I'm not convinced that people should be forced to not eat animals at this point, because it it's just so into its infancy of knowing for sure what we do and don't need with certain nutrition. But anyways, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about it. But yeah, as of now, I would say whatever people are capable of doing, they should do. I don't think it's a good excuse for some where if somebody can get like rice and beans and
Mm-hmm.
corn and
You're accessible to those products.
yeah, and then you choose to eat like 99-cent burgers from McDonald's or whatever. I don't think that's reasonable necessarily.
It's
Um,
not.
but yeah, if you can't afford certain things, and vitamins is kind of one of the only examples I can think of, because it's it's kind of strange how a lot of vegan vitamins are pretty expensive, but it also comes down to what vitamins you think are necessary. And really quick, I want to mention somebody in chat, a buddy of mine, was saying that you can get omega 3s from flax seed, or maybe they said chia seeds. And I just want to point out that when it comes to nuts and seeds, like walnuts and a few others, they technically have omega 3s, but it's called ALA, and it's a type of omega 3 that I think about 50% of the population can convert to DHA, like in their bodies, but the other 50% cannot. And so for that other 50%, they would be very low in omega 3 if they don't get it in a DHA form, which is why you'd want the algae source supplement.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, anyways, I'll send you way better information than I could give you. But that'll be interesting to see if that convinces you to get some good vitamins in your system. I mean, being young, how old are you?
I actually am 30.
30. Okay, yeah. Being 30, you're probably fine. Like B12 doesn't really become a huge issue for people until they get a bit older, but in some people it can and all that stuff. But anyways, I'll get it your way. I don't think a lot of people take like multivitamins and all kinds of like vitamin nonsense that I don't think is necessary. But after doing quite a bit of research, it seems like everybody's kind of on board about the three main vitamins that are best for everybody, but specifically for vegans. But yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Is there anything that you do that you think people would consider you not vegan for, or is it just the thoughts about these like insects and possible different things?
So actually, like, I'm kind of like similar to you. I actually do consume eggs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I guess that's like the only, in a way, I still would consider myself like vegan, right? But even then, it's not the right thing to say.
Yeah.
I guess I would more identify with like vegetarianism, but chickens will always lay eggs. It's not like, and I only buy like the ones that are humane, right? Like, and yeah, no, I still eat eggs.
Gotcha.
So I guess I couldn't view myself as that.
Yeah, I don't know if you feel the same way as I do, but the reason I like aligning with veganism, even in the case of eating eggs, is that like, so vegetarianism and pescatarianism and all these different other isms, they're all diets. They're specifically diets. Like pescatarian, I've never heard of somebody referring to it as a philosophy, where like the vegan idea is that you care about the sentience. I guess vegetarians and pescatarians care about the sentience, but they're not looking at the overall picture of where all the harm's coming from, and like how many vegetarians and pescatarians don't buy products that say tested on animals or not tested on animals, and have any focus on harm caused just in general to sentient beings. And so I like the idea of there being a term that that points out that just way more than a diet. And so yeah, no, I'm with you. Do you eat the eggs just because you view it as morally less bad, or are you specifically into health yourself and you are convinced that eggs are healthy?
Well, some portions of the eggs obviously aren't healthy, like the high cholesterol in the yolk. Or yeah, but it's like one of my main protein sources, right?
Oh, okay.
That's why I eat it. Like I do have other protein sources, but it's one of my high ones. And
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I won't.
Yeah.
Oh, go for it. Yeah.
It's like no, it's okay. I won't go into the.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I'll point out some upsides and downsides. So I'm not going to try to talk you out of it necessarily, but I think it's good for everybody to be aware of, everything. I think the more information is always best. So one thing I will say is those vitamins I was referring to, I think all three of them are covered in eggs. So vitamin D3, omega 3, and B12. I think you get a good amount in eggs. That's an upside. The another upside is I don't know if you've looked into it, but you know how a lot of people demonize soy products and they'll say like, "Oh, the estrogen in soy is bad for you."
Oh, I actually didn't even know that.
Oh, okay, that's the thing a lot of people like to say, but words are kind of tricky, and so you'll have like certain types of estrogen that mean something, and others that don't mean anything. And so there'll be foods that will technically have something referred to as estrogen in it, but it wouldn't affect anybody's estrogen hormones in their body. And from my understanding, and I could be wrong, that with cholesterol, it's a product having cholesterol in it doesn't mean it's going to affect your own cholesterol. And so that might be a thing you don't have to worry about. Those are my two things I want to point out for the positive side of eggs. Now I want to point out why I don't think it's good to eat eggs. So there's a few things. I don't know if you know the difference between pasture raised versus free range versus cage free. Do you know much about those?
No.
Okay. So first of all, there's a traditional factory farm egg. So the cheapest eggs you're going to find at stores are just factory farmed eggs. So that's going to be inside a building, all these chickens having the worst life ever, laying eggs. So there's that. We don't want that. And then there is cage free, which means that they get approximately 2 square feet, very tiny amount of space, that is outside of a cage, but can still be inside of a building. So they're crammed with a little more area. They each have a total of 2 square feet. And then,
much, so.
yeah, not much at all. And then free range means the same thing, the 2 square feet, but they have to be able to go outside for some amount of time, but they still have 2 square feet, so not much at all. And then pasture raised is where they have to not only be able to go outside, but they get 108 square feet of roaming room per chicken, so a large amount. And then also they have to be able to be outside a certain amount of time, and you have to rotate the land they're on, so they constantly are having fresh like grasses and insects and stuff to eat. And so you'll notice you should actually go buy a case of pasture raised eggs and crack a free range or cage free egg into a pan and then crack a pasture raised egg. You're going to notice a bright orange yolk for the pasture raised because they're getting more of the nutrition that is good for them, and you'll notice a huge difference in there.
Okay.
But as far as the moral side goes, I would say cage-free and free-range are way better than just getting the traditional, but pasture-raised is like a whole new level, like beyond higher new level, that if you can afford it, I'd recommend it, and it's only like $1 or $2 more for a dozen. And then a couple other things to factor in. So I'm not really worried too much about the fact that chickens are kind of bred to be more constant egg layers. So normally in the wild, a chicken's going to lay an egg like a couple times a month, where they bred them to the point, similar to like sheep, they bred them to the point where they have the ones that grow wool like really fast. They bred chickens to the point where they lay eggs really fast. There could be a downside to this, but I'll set that one aside. The main downsides are in the egg industry. To get egg-laying hens, whenever they breed chickens and the eggs hatch and you got a new chick, 50% of those chicks are going to be male, 50% are female. And so the females will go off to grow up and be egg layers. But the males, just right when they're born, they just get tossed onto a conveyor belt and basically taken into a blender and chopped up.
Yeah.
So there's a downside there. Another downside would be any of these free range, pasture raised, doesn't matter what it is, unless you have a specific farm and you hear from them. Once they are at an age of being unable to lay eggs, they will be used for meat. So they'll just be killed and then eaten. So putting eggs in demand does support that action.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's a couple factors to keep in mind, but as far as comparing it to things, like eating eggs is 1,000 times better than eating animals. And I think the worst thing anybody could do is probably eating dairy. I think the most suffering of any animal products comes from dairy. But there's always a little bit better people can do, and there's always, like, obviously in your case, and I think so in my case too, that we're doing better than an insane amount of people. So when I point out these ideas of downsides of eggs, I don't want you to think I'm judging you in any way.
No, it's
I'm
totally
just
fine.
like, I like to be aware
No, I
of
like to learn. Yeah, I like
yeah,
to
what's
learn.
right and wrong. So
And
yeah.
I'm glad that you're educating me on this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And
Thank you.
that's one thing I love about conversations like this is I'm always there to hear new ideas and take in new things. And yeah, I've really enjoyed this, and I've gotten a lot out of it. Let's see. Okay, I only got about 5 minutes left. Is there any topic you can think of that we haven't talked about yet?
Uh, no, actually. I
Gotcha,
think we
gotcha.
covered a lot.
Yeah. I was looking at chat really quick. I don't know if you can see chat from where you're at. If I don't know if you're on a phone or a computer, but when you
I am on a computer. Let me just pull up your stream. Okay.
yeah, it's just it'd be hard to go through them all now, but there's a lot of chat just about our conversation. So if
Oh,
you go
jeez.
back and check out our conversation on the live stream on YouTube, you will be able to see the chat as it came in. So if you're ever interested in seeing what some other people have said about the things we're talking about. I guess I'll get one last topic in. Have you ever, what are your thoughts on if somebody's going to throw away food? Like, let's say you're at a restaurant and everybody orders food and somebody has animal-based product and they're done and they know when they step up that the bus boy is going to come around and take all the food and throw it away. Do
Mm,
you like, well, how do you view that for yourself and for someone else? So if there was a product that you used to enjoy the taste of and you know it's going to be thrown away, would you eat it and how do you feel about it? And then no matter what your answer is, how would you view it if you knew a vegan that the only times they ate meat would be or animal products would be at a restaurant when food's about to be thrown away?
okay. Okay. So actually, I do have personal experience from this in like a huge like production standpoint. So I actually used to own a pizza store, right? Uh, we'd keep stuff ready. It'd have a shelf life of 30 minutes, and then we'd either A, have to throw it away, or B, which is what I would do, is donate it.
Okay.
I donated to shelters. I donated to charities. Yeah, so from like that, like food waste standpoint, like unless like the meal's like basically like done, right? It could be used for the garbage. It could be used to recycle. Like from what I said before, was like feeding it to like black soldier fly larvae, or like worms to decompose it and produce like new sustainable products like worm castings and stuff like that. It it has other uses for it, right? Nothing. It's better to reduce waste than not to.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, definitely. Did you
yeah.
ever eat it yourself or always donation? What if you weren't able to donate it? Um, would you just take it home and have it to not waste it, or is it is that a type of food that you don't consume because you try to eat healthier?
I don't. I don't think I would eat it, to be honest.
Okay.
I there unless there's extreme conditions, right? Like, but there, I don't think there would be. There's always a second option, right? To
Yeah.
donate or to, you know, feed it to other animals, or like, you just ask somebody like, hey, you should. Did you want this?
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, and for me, like, so it's kind of like the roadkill thing. Like, I don't find it to be immoral because you're not personally putting it in demand, but I do personally find it kind of gross to eat the flesh.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so it's just tricky. Um, but yeah, I got my buddy Michael here in the comments is saying that he would like to have a chat with you someday about the eggs idea and health side of it and whatnot. So maybe if you're interested, we could set up a chat where it's the three of us or something. Um,
Yeah, sure, one day.
yeah, cool.
All
Okay,
right.
well, that was a good talk. Thanks for joining, and I'll talk to you later.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
Yep. All right. Take care.
Okay. You too. Bye.
All right. That was a cool talk. Um, yeah. I was going to mention. Okay, so Jeremy wrote that the worst suffering per calorie is either broiled chickens, or farmed. Oh, sorry, broiler chickens or farmed fish. And then I was about to say something similar to what Phil said here. Um, Yeah, like fish, I would just assume aren't as capable of suffering. Farm fish, it's tricky because yeah, they're in their entire lives. They're in this like tiny area, so that probably is miserable on their psyche. I just don't know what they're capable of feeling. As far as Phil said here about cows, so I think with most cows, even factory farmed cows, most cows spend most of their life. Being able to graze somewhat. The factory farmed like feedlots, I think mostly come in right at the end for the last like I don't know, maybe a couple weeks before their end. But for years, I think they're mostly just roaming. I could be wrong about this, but I think that's the case. But pigs definitely. So I would assume per calorie that factory farmed chickens and pigs are at the top. But yeah, I have no idea the detail of suffering of a fish compared to other animals. So I would like to know. I know that there are some studies that show that fish do feel pain, but I don't know if there's much in the way of studies or even speculation on how their psyches are affected by like fish in a fish tank. I've always hated the idea of somebody owning a little fish tank and having fish in there because most fish would want to. Yeah, I guess I don't know if they have a natural instinct and want to go further. So if a fish is born in or hatched, if a fish started off in like a pet store or something like that, so it doesn't have any knowledge of like what exists. I don't know if they would like suffer in a way where because they evolved to be able to swim far, that they're bothered by that. But I definitely don't like it. Um, yeah. I like logical consistency. Is talking with Lewis and a few others about killing a lion to save a gazelle. And yeah, that's such a complicated topic. I think that idea comes down a lot to like what I when I talk about like caring about my own health and the health of my family. It's how much does one's need for health and thriving override morality? So part of me is on the side of if there is an animal that is a carnivore, like it's wanting to eat something to survive, and I get that. And then the animal is trying to get away to survive, and I get that. And so I don't view it as an unreasonable action. Like, obviously the lion doesn't have the capacity for moral reasoning, but just look at humans. If let's say we were natural carnivores, let's say we were like a lion and the only thing we could consume would be animal products. Like if we found that out today, all of us vegans, everyone listening to this right now, if you found out right now that everything you had been eating, you didn't realize that this was all animal products, and to continue to survive, you have to eat animals. You have to eat pigs and cows and whatever. Would you just let yourself die, or would you figure out the most humane way to do it? And I don't know. There might be some people that would just let themselves die, but I would just do whatever the most humane way. The vegan thing to do in that situation would be to eat the exact amount of calories you needed to in the way that causes the least amount of suffering, and don't overeat calories. You don't overeat calories, and you don't and you try to, you'd want to have like the regenerative farm cows or whatever, or go hunting or whatever, but you'd go like, oh, like pigs and chicken suffer the most, so I wouldn't want to eat that until they change those practices. And I'd go to this farm because I know how they do what they do, or I'd go hunting here, or I'd do this. There's just so many different routes you'd do. But the idea of, we are moral beings that can know that things can suffer, so we all humans should just let ourselves die, and the only reason to not do that would be to kill off all predators first and then let ourselves die. I'm just not convinced by that. But at the same time, if there was a lion about to kill a gazelle, it's one animal versus another animal, and in one case it's not doing anything wrong, and the other one is about to cause some suffering and death, so killing it seems fine. So anyways, it's complicated, but I would love to hear what everyone would think of that. If any vegans listening right now, if it's live, then answer live. And if it's later, put in the comments. If you had been spending all your life up till now just eating something out of a box that you didn't really, let's say it just looked like tofu. It was just a pile of something, and let's say you didn't know how it was made, and you were just eating it, and then one day you decided to ask, and then you find out today that you've been eating this beef that looks like tofu. And then you find out, oh, you can only survive off eating cow. You can only survive off eating cow. Would you let yourself die, or would you figure out the most humane way to eat cows? Like, I feel like I've asked this in a live stream before, and nobody answered. So I'm hoping somebody will answer in here, but also, more importantly, just at some point in the comments of the live video. Okay, Brandon of Logical Consistency said, Carson, what the F are you talking about? Let's see. You are not a lion and can eat plant-based perfectly fine. Yeah, no. I was just talking in hypotheticals. Like what would you do in that situation? Let's see. Okay, Lewis and Brandon are talking about having a chat. I am looking forward to that. You guys should totally have that chat. That'd be awesome. If you want to have that chat with like a moderator of sorts, I'd love to be part of that chat. That would be cool. But if not, yeah, you guys should have the chat, and I could. Yeah, I'm very curious about that. Okay, Jeremy, yeah, no, and you probably have, and I get it, and I completely agree that what you would do isn't necessarily what's morally better. There will be a morally best outcome in various situations, and it doesn't mean that that's what an individual would do or what's reasonable to do. in a situation. So, yeah. Okay, there we go. Michael's going to answer it. Okay. If I knew 100% the only way for me to live, let me pull this up. For me to live was eating cow, I would eat cow. Same as if I was a vampire. I'm pretty sure I'd feast on humans, but wish I didn't have to. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yep, that's right. And I'm guessing if you could only feed on cow, and there were wild cows, but there were also regenerative farm cows, and there was factory farm cows and all these different things, that you'd probably opt for going hunting yourself and doing the hunted cow that spent its life having, whatever is probably its best moments it could compared to other. Well, actually, I don't know. If you have a regenerative, like grass-fed, free-range, pasture-raised cow, there's a decent chance that cow, if treated right, would have a better life if it spent 4 years living on that farm than in the wild. But yeah, one of those two options would probably be the best. But yeah, it'd be a matter of, since you're taking a life and there's potential harm involved, you would do as little as you had to. You would basically just consume what you had to, in my mind, to have optimal health, and in other people's minds it could be to just be able to survive. But I think it's something like that. But yeah, and you'd want to, the vegan thing to do in that world where humans ate cows would be to not have factory farms, to do everything you could to be against factory farms. Let's see. This might as well sound wild, but probably the most morally important thing to do would be to ensure that civilization lasts long enough to construct a known universe where predation doesn't exist. And dun dun dun. Yeah, I don't know if that's best. But probably something like that. Because okay, so if you have animals that reproduce and overpopulate, because so humans can at least decide to not overpopulate. I don't know if we're great at it, but you could decide not to. I do hate the argument when people say, "Oh, I kill deer because they're going to overpopulate." But it's important to think of, if something overpopulates, there's too many in one area and it has nowhere else to go, then a certain amount of them will get disease and die off. And I really don't know if I would guess there's less suffering in like animals that kill deer and keeping like a population at at a number that will make disease not happen, versus the numbers getting to the point where the disease does happen. So yeah, there's that. And I was talking with Michael the other day on it, and on the idea of animals in the wild, 95% of them don't make it to adulthood even. And like, so if you could take a gun out into the wild and just shoot animals for the sake of preventing them from going through the suffering that they're going to go through by whatever happens to them that makes them not go to adulthood, I would say that that might even be morally best. So I don't know if it's that taking out predators is best, because I would guess that most predators would end the lives of their prey quickly. So that's better than a typical prey animal suffering of like starvation or something like that. And so letting predators take out prey, or taking out the prey yourself, might be best. But not just prey, because predators will starve to death as well, and predators also, 95% of them don't make it to adulthood. So I wouldn't know the best way to approach it, but I think there's probably an answer right now. What sticks out into my mind would be, if we had the capability of it, going out and snipering 95% of animals before adulthood, of all types of animals, is probably best. Something like that. But I don't know. It's just where I'm at now. Brandon said that's a simple hypothetical, and more complex issues require more complex hypotheticals. Huh? Maybe, I don't know. All right. Trevor says, Michael, I disagree. We are nearly identical to frugivores, simians, so their diets are likely ideal for us. Oh, I think I missed a part where. Okay, I'm going to ignore that. I would love to set up a conversation between Michael and an honest doubter. That would be great. There was a comment I wanted to look at, though. Where did it go? The question is basically, what if we were biologically carnivores? My retort, what if we were biologically frugivores, which we are? Well, yeah, but that doesn't answer the question. Like, so being a frugivore, you're going to want to eat like a frugivore. But being a carnivore, does that mean that you would eat like a carnivore? Because the question, the reason it's good to ask the question to vegans is because it's interesting to find out who's at what level. Like, are you a person that is so empathetic that you would rather let yourself die than to harm something? And so, and it's different than the question of an actual human being on an island and needing to eat to survive, because you might justify eating a dozen animals until you're saved and then you don't have to eat anymore. But if you had to eat them for the rest of your life, but for me, it's still a simple answer. Only simple in the sense that I feel confident that I know what I would do. And yeah. Let me look. Yeah, cool. Okay. Great talk, guys. I really enjoyed talking to Mike there. And I really enjoyed seeing the comments in here. Let's set up some talks. Anybody want to chat, just let me know. Anybody want to chat with other people on the channel, we can get a group of like 3 or 4 of us together to talk about each of these different ideas. It's very fascinating when we see that different people agree on different things and not other things. I think I saw Brandon of Logical Consistency and Lewis disagreeing on a couple things, mostly the predators, but I think they agree on most other things. So yeah, good stuff. And conversation definitely leads us all to, being more informed and having more informed ideas. So yeah. Anyways, go on and treat animals well, and I will see you guys in the next one.